The observation deck of Galactic Concordat University floated silently in the darkness of space. 3 distant suns cast a soft glow through the massive transparent walls. Professor Velnara stood near the airlock, her long sensory tendrils moving nervously as she waited. Today was historic. The first human student was about to arrive. Around her, dozens of alien students gathered in small groups. Some whispered excitedly through translator devices. Others kept their distance, their bodies tense with uncertainty. Everyone had heard the rumors about Earth. A Class 9 Deathworld. A planet so dangerous that most species would die within hours of landing there. The airlock hissed open. Emma Richards stepped through, carrying only a simple duffel bag over her shoulder. She looked around the deck with bright, curious eyes. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore casual clothes that seemed completely ordinary. The alien students stared at her in silence. Professor Velnara moved forward, her tendrils extending in a gesture of welcome. Miss Richards, we are deeply honored to have you here. You are the first of your kind to study with us. Emma smiled warmly and extended her hand. The professor hesitated, then carefully wrapped a tendril around it in greeting. Thank you so much, Professor. I'm really excited to learn from everyone here. A tall crystalline being stepped forward cautiously. His body was made of clear geometric shapes that reflected light in beautiful rainbow patterns. My name is Thorn. I must ask, is it true? Is Earth really a Class 9 death world? Emma laughed, a sound that made several students jump back in alarm. I guess technically? We just call it home though. It's not that bad once you're used to it. A small insectoid student with multiple legs and compound eyes chittered nervously. But the database says your planet has extreme temperature variations and frequent natural disasters. Oh sure, Emma said cheerfully. But you adapt, you know? Humans are pretty good at adapting. Professor Velnara gently guided Emma away from the growing crowd. Come, let me show you to your quarters. Classes begin tomorrow. The next morning, Emma sat in her first xenobiology seminar. The classroom was a circular space with floating seats that adjusted to each species' body type. Professor Velnara stood in the center, a holographic display rotating above her. Today we will each describe our homeworlds, the professor announced. This will help us understand the different environments that shaped our evolution. A student from Melodia went first. She described a world of gentle rains and mild temperatures. The seasons changed slowly and predictably. Dangerous animals did not exist there. Plants provided abundant food year-round. Vri, the insectoid student, spoke about underground hive cities. Temperature was controlled perfectly. Food was distributed equally. Everything was organized and safe. Then it was Emma's turn. She stood and activated her personal datapad. An image of Earth appeared in the hologram. Earth is the 3rd planet from our sun, she began. We have 7 continents and 5 oceans. The temperature can range from 134 degrees Fahrenheit in our hottest deserts to minus 128 degrees at the poles. Several students gasped. Thorn's crystalline body flickered with what might have been shock. Emma continued, not noticing their reactions. We have hurricanes that can destroy entire cities. Tornadoes that appear with very little warning. Earthquakes happen along fault lines. We've got about 1,500 active volcanoes. And every few million years, a really big asteroid comes close enough to worry about. Professor Velnara's tendrils had gone completely still. And yet, your species thrives? Yeah, we're pretty resilient, Emma said proudly. We've spread to every continent. We live in deserts, jungles, mountains, even the Arctic. A student in the back made a sound like wind chimes crashing. But how do you survive? Emma shrugged. We build shelters, create technology, work together. For fun, I like hiking in the mountains near my home. Sometimes I go camping in the forests or swimming in the ocean. Vria's antennae trembled. You enter the wilderness, voluntarily? For recreation? Sure, it's beautiful out there. You just have to be prepared and respect nature. Thorn leaned forward in his floating seat. What about predators? Surely you avoid areas with dangerous animals. Well, we're careful, Emma said. Bear attacks are pretty rare if you store your food properly. Mountain lions usually avoid humans. Shark attacks are like super uncommon considering how many people swim in the ocean every day. The classroom erupted in alarmed sounds. Clicks, whistles, hums, and electronic beeps filled the air as students spoke to each other in panic. Professor Velnara held up her tendrils for silence. Miss Richards, you are saying that apex predators exist in your recreational areas? And your species simply coexists with them? Emma nodded, looking confused by all the concern. I mean, yeah. They were there first. We're the ones visiting their territory. Most animals leave you alone if you don't threaten them or their babies. The professor made several quick notes on her datapad. She looked at Emma with a mixture of fascination and fear. This human child spoke of deadly predators and catastrophic disasters the way other students spoke of mild weather. What kind of species evolved on such a nightmarish world? And more importantly, what had that environment created? As Emma sat down, still smiling innocently, Professor Velnera realized they had barely scratched the surface of understanding humans. The exchange program had just begun, and already everything they thought they knew about peaceful species was being challenged. 1 week had passed since Emma's arrival, and the university had settled into an uneasy routine. Students watched the human with fascination and fear, keeping a respectful distance. Professor Velnara had spent hours reading reports about Earth, and each page made her more concerned. Today's class was Cultural Technology Studies. The assignment was simple. Each student would present weapons from their species' history before they achieved space travel. It was meant to be an academic look at how different civilizations approached conflict and problem-solving. Thorn volunteered to go first. His crystalline body glowed softly as he activated a holographic display. A large transparent crystal appeared in the air above him. This is a solar focusing crystal, Thorn explained. My ancestors used these tools to cut stone for building our cities. We would position them to concentrate sunlight into a precise beam. It could slice through rock very cleanly. Professor Velnara nodded approvingly. Excellent. A tool that could technically be used as a weapon, but was designed for construction. Next. Vri scuttled to the front of the classroom. His compound eyes glittered as he showed an image of a small organic spray device. This is a pheromone disruptor. When two hives had disputes over territory, we would release this chemical. It created confusion in the rival hives' communication, making them disoriented. No one was physically harmed. After a few hours, the effect wore off and negotiations could begin. Fascinating, the professor said. A completely non-lethal approach. Well done, Vri. Several other students presented similar items. Energy dampeners that made opponents sleepy. Sonic devices that created unpleasant sounds to drive animals away. Nets made from organic fibers for capturing food animals. Every presentation followed the same pattern. Tools designed to avoid actual violence. Then Emma stood up and walked to the front. She looked excited as she pulled out her datapad and activated her holographic display. So, humans have been making weapons for a really long time, Emma began cheerfully. A crude stone spear appeared in the hologram. This is a spear. We found evidence of these from about 400,000 years ago. Early humans used them to hunt large animals and defend themselves from predators. The image shifted to show a bow and arrows. These came later. The bow let us hunt from a distance, which was much safer. We got really good at making different types of arrows for different purposes. Thorn raised a crystalline appendage. Excuse me, Emma. You said defend yourselves from predators. Your prey animals fought back. Oh, we didn't just hunt prey, Emma said casually. We also had to defend ourselves from things that hunted us. Big cats, bears, wolves, crocodiles. Earth has a lot of predators. A nervous murmur spread through the classroom. Emma did not notice and continued her presentation. The hologram showed swords, axes, and shields. During what we call the Bronze Age and Iron Age, humans developed metal weapons. These were used for hunting but also for fighting other human groups. We had a lot of wars back then. Wars? Professor Velnara's voice was tight. You fought your own species? Yeah, unfortunately. Different tribes and kingdoms wanted the same resources, so they fought over them. Emma's expression turned more serious. It wasn't great. A lot of people died. The hologram continued to evolve, showing crossbows, cannons, and eventually rifles. The alien students watched in growing horror as Emma's presentation revealed weapons of increasing sophistication and deadliness. Then we discovered gunpowder, Emma said. That changed everything. We developed muskets, rifles, machine guns, and artillery. This led to some really devastating conflicts. She paused, and the hologram showed images of massive armies, trenches, and battlefields. We call these our world wars. The whole planet was basically involved. Millions of people died. A student near the back fainted, their body going limp in their floating chair. Another made a sound like breaking glass and fled from the classroom. Emma looked confused but continued. The Second World War was when we developed our most powerful weapons. The hologram showed a mushroom cloud rising into the sky. These are nuclear weapons. Atomic bombs. They use nuclear fission to create enormous explosions. A single bomb can destroy an entire city. Professor Velnara's tendrils coiled tightly against her body, a defensive posture her species used when terrified. Emma, please tell me you developed space travel first, then created these weapons for asteroid defense or something similar? Emma shook her head. No, we made nuclear weapons in 1945. We didn't send our first satellite into space until 1957, and we didn't land on our moon until 1969. The classroom fell into stunned silence. Even the translator devices seemed to have stopped working as every species tried to process what they had just heard. Vri finally spoke, his voice trembling through the translator. You created planet-destroying weapons before you left your planet? What? What possible reason could justify such power? Emma's expression turned sad. Fear mostly. And the desire to win conflicts at any cost. We actually used them twice in war. The devastation was so horrible that most nations agreed never to use them again. We came very close to destroying ourselves. But you didn't, Thorn said slowly. You stopped. We learned, Emma said quietly. We saw what we were capable of and it scared us. So we made treaties, created international laws, and started working together instead of fighting. That's actually why I'm here. We want to join the galactic community because we're tired of being alone and violent. We want to be better. Professor Velnara stood frozen for a long moment. Then she dismissed the class early, her voice shaking as she spoke. We will continue this discussion another time. Emma, please remain. The rest of you are excused. As the students filed out in shocked silence, the professor immediately sent an urgent message to the university administration. The subject line read, Emergency faculty meeting required, human capability assessment. The Concordat was about to have a very serious conversation about whether humanity was ready to join the galactic community, or if they were simply too dangerous to include. The university library was nearly empty when Thorn and Vri met in the restricted archives section. The crystalline being's body pulsed with dim, anxious light. The insectoid student's antennae twitched nervously as they approached the secure terminal. Are you certain we should do this? Vri asked, his translator converting his chittering into standard speech. Accessing classified files could get us expelled. Thorn's geometric form shifted colors. Professor Velnara gave us special research permissions after Emma's presentation. She wants students to understand what humans truly are. Besides, we need to know if we're safe. Vri nodded reluctantly. His multiple legs carried him closer to the holographic display. What should we search for first? Start with Earth's historical database, Thorn suggested. Let us see what the Concordat has documented about human civilization. The search began. Within seconds, thousands of files appeared in the projection. Vri scrolled through the categories with growing alarm. Bronze Age warfare. Medieval siege tactics. Colonial conflicts. Industrial Revolution military technology. Thorn, there are entire sections dedicated to human violence organized by time period. Thorn selected a file at random. Images filled the space around them showing armored soldiers on horseback charging across fields. This is called a cavalry charge. Humans bred and trained large animals to carry them into battle at high speeds. They attacked with metal weapons while moving. They weaponized other species? Vria's voice rose in pitch. That should be impossible. How do you convince an animal to run toward danger? Apparently through something called domestication, Thorn said, opening another file. Look at this. Humans took wolves, which are pack-hunting predators, and over thousands of years bred them into companions called dogs. The dogs live in human homes. Human children play with them. Vri made a sound like grinding gears. You cannot befriend a predator. Evolution does not work that way. Predators eat you. Humans did it anyway. Thorn pulled up more files. They also domesticated horses for transportation and labor, cattle for food and materials, birds for eggs and meat. They bent entire species to serve their purposes. The two students continued searching through the night. Each discovery was more disturbing than the last. They found records of castle sieges that lasted months, with humans using catapults to throw stones and diseased bodies over walls. Naval battles where wooden ships fired metal balls at each other until they sank. Trench warfare where soldiers lived underground for years, fighting over strips of land. This cannot be real, Vri said, his body trembling. No species could survive this level of constant conflict. But the evidence was overwhelming. Earth's history was an endless catalog of increasingly sophisticated violence. Every century brought new weapons, new tactics, new ways for humans to fight each other in their dangerous world. Thorn opened a file labeled Human Recreational Activities. What they saw made no sense at first. These are children, Thorn said slowly. Playing games. The hologram showed young humans running and chasing each other. Another showed them hiding while one searched. The database says these games are called tag and hide and seek, Vri read. They are meant to be fun. But look at what they are actually doing, Thorn said, his analytical mind processing the patterns. Tag is practicing pursuit and evasion. Hide and seek is training stealth and tracking skills. These children are playing hunting games. They found more examples. Human adults engaged in boxing, where two people punched each other until one could not continue. Wrestling, where they grappled and tried to pin each other down. Something called martial arts, which was systematic combat training taught to civilians. Their entertainment is warfare simulation, Vri said, his compound eyes wide with realization. Even their play is based on survival and combat. Thorn pulled up footage from Earth's Olympic Games. Humans competed in javelin throwing, archery, fencing, and shooting. These are all weapon skills, Thorn observed. They turned ancient combat techniques into sports. They compete to see who is the best at activities that would kill most species. Wait, look at this, Vri said, highlighting another file. This is labeled Extreme Sports. The hologram showed humans jumping out of flying vehicles with fabric parachutes. Others climbed sheer rock faces without safety equipment. Some rode down mountains on small boards at incredible speeds. They risked death for fun, Vri whispered. This is entertainment to them. Thorn accessed medical files next. What they found was perhaps most shocking of all. Human pain tolerance is listed as exceptionally high, he read. Their bodies can continue functioning with injuries that would incapacitate most species. They have something called an adrenaline response that actually makes them stronger and faster when they are in danger. Evolution built them for combat, Vri said. Every system in their body is optimized for survival in extreme conditions. They discovered that human bones were incredibly dense and strong. Human muscles could generate enormous force. Human endurance was legendary among Deathworld species. A healthy human could run for hours, chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, and recover quickly from physical trauma. Here is something interesting, Thorn said, pulling up a behavioral study. Despite their capacity for violence, humans have complex social structures. They form deep emotional bonds. They create art, music, and literature. They have philosophy and ethics. How can one species contain such contradictions? Vri asked. The final file they opened was labeled Human Psychological Profile. The summary was brief but illuminating. Humans possessed high intelligence, strong emotional capacity, and remarkable adaptability. They could be incredibly violent or incredibly compassionate, often within the same individual. They were driven by both survival instinct and higher purpose. But one line in the report stood out: humans are most dangerous when protecting others. Their capacity for self-sacrifice in defense of their social groups is unmatched in known species. Thorn and Vri looked at each other in the dim light of the archives. They had spent the entire night researching, and dawn was approaching. Around them floated thousands of files documenting humanity's violent history and remarkable abilities. What do we do with this information? Vri asked quietly. We tell the administration, Thorn said. They need to understand what Emma really is. What all humans are. And what are they? Vri pressed. Thorn's crystalline body was still for a long moment. I'm not certain yet. But I think we may have invited the galaxy's most dangerous species into our home. The question is whether that makes us very foolish or very fortunate. As they left the archives, neither student noticed Emma walking past in the corridor outside, heading to her morning exercise routine. She smiled and waved at them cheerfully, completely unaware that her new friends had just spent the night terrified by her species' history. By morning, whispers had spread through every corridor of the university. Students huddled in groups, speaking in hushed tones about the human among them. Some claimed Emma carried weapons in her backpack. Others said they had seen her practicing combat moves in the gymnasium. Fear rippled through the peaceful academic community like waves across still water. Security Chief Ralven received 17 reports before breakfast. His species, the Guardians, were tall and elegant with smooth silver skin and large dark eyes. They had maintained peace in the Concordat for 3 centuries without incident. Now he sat in his office staring at items confiscated from Emma's dormitory room. A small folding knife lay on his desk. Next to it sat a canister labeled pepper spray. There were also dense rectangular bars wrapped in plastic with words like protein and energy printed on them. To Ralven's trained eye, These looked like military rations. Send for the human, he told his assistant. Emma arrived 20 minutes later looking confused and worried. She had been pulled out of her morning literature class without explanation. When she saw her belongings spread across the security chief's desk, her eyes widened. Is something wrong? Emma asked. Did I forget to register these items or something? Ralven gestured to the knife with one long finger. Miss Richards, can you explain why you brought weapons to an educational institution? Emma blinked in surprise. Weapons? That's just my pocket knife. I've had it since I was 12. You have carried a blade weapon since childhood? Ralven's voice remained calm but firm. It's not a weapon, it's a tool, Emma said, picking up the knife. She opened it to show the various attachments. See? It has a blade for cutting, a bottle opener, a small screwdriver, even tweezers. My dad gave it to me for camping trips. And this? Ralven pointed to the pepper spray. That's for personal safety. My mom insisted I bring it. She worries, you know how moms are. Emma smiled, but the security chief did not return the expression. Personal safety implies you expected to face threats, Ralven said. Did you anticipate violence at our university? Emma's smile faded. What? No, of course not. It's just something people carry on Earth. Especially women walking alone at night. It's normal. Normal to prepare for combat? It's not combat, it's just being careful. Emma was getting frustrated now. The pepper spray is non-lethal. It just irritates the eyes temporarily. You spray it and run away. That's it. The door opened and Ambassador Ryloth entered. He was a being of pure grace, his species known for diplomacy and wisdom. His presence commanded respect. He looked at Emma with an expression that might have been disappointment. Miss Richards, we need to have a serious discussion about your people. Emma felt her stomach drop. What's going on? I don't understand. Ambassador Ryloth sat down across from her. We have reviewed Earth's history extensively. Your species has an alarming capacity for violence. You wage wars against yourselves. You create weapons of mass destruction. You train your children in combat techniques. That's not fair, Emma protested. You're looking at our worst moments and judging our entire species. Yesterday, our security footage captured you in the gymnasium, Ralven said, pulling up a holographic display. It showed Emma performing a series of kicks and punches, moving through practiced forms with precision and power. I was doing karate, Emma said. It's exercise. It is combat training, the ambassador corrected gently. You have studied these techniques since you were 7 years old, according to your records. Yes, and do you know what the first thing they teach you in karate is? Emma's voice rose with emotion. Self-control. Discipline. Respect. We bow to our teachers. We learn that violence is the last resort, not the first. The whole point is to become strong enough that you never have to prove it. Ralven pointed to the items on his desk. Yet you carry weapons and defensive tools as a matter of routine. Emma stood up, her hands clenched in frustration. Do you want to know why? Because Earth is dangerous. Not because of humans, because of everything else. I carry a knife because I might need to cut rope or open a package or fix something. I carry pepper spray because my mother loves me and wants me safe. I know martial arts because my parents wanted me to be confident and strong. She took a breath, trying to calm herself. You're from peaceful worlds. You evolved in safe environments. You don't understand what it's like to grow up on a planet that's actively trying to kill you. Ambassador Ryloth leaned forward. Then help us understand. Emma sat back down. Her voice became quieter, more controlled. Every summer when I was growing up, we had tornado warnings. Sirens would go off and we'd run to the basement. Every winter brought blizzards that could freeze you to death in minutes if you got lost. We learned to check for snakes before reaching into dark spaces. We learned to store food properly so bears wouldn't attack our campsite. We learned to swim because drowning is a real danger. She gestured to the items on the desk. These aren't weapons to us. They're survival tools. On Earth, you prepare for emergencies because emergencies happen. It's not paranoia, it's common sense. But the wars, Ambassador Ryloth said softly. Your species fights itself. Yes, Emma admitted, her voice heavy. We do. We have. And it's horrible. Do you know what every human child learns in school? We learn about the Holocaust, where millions of people were murdered. We learn about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, cities destroyed by atomic weapons. We learn about slavery and genocide and all the terrible things humans have done to each other. Tears formed in her eyes. And do you know why we teach these things? So we never forget. So we never do them again. Every human grows up knowing what we're capable of, and we choose every single day to be better than that. The room fell silent. Ralvin and Ambassador Ryloth exchanged glances. You carry the memory of your violence, the ambassador said slowly. As a reminder. As a warning, Emma corrected. We're not proud of our history, but we're not running from it either. Yes, humans can be dangerous. We evolved that way because we had to. But we're also capable of incredible kindness, cooperation, and love. We're not monsters. We're just people trying to do better. Ambassador Ryloth stood and walked to the window looking out at the stars. Perhaps we have been unfair. We judged your capacity for harm without considering your capacity for growth. He turned back to Emma. Your species developed ethics and laws precisely because you understand the cost of violence. You create rules for warfare itself because you have experienced its horror. Most species in the Concordat have never known real conflict. We have been peaceful because we never had reason to be otherwise. But you, Ralvin said, understanding dawning in his voice, you chose peace despite having every reason to choose violence. Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. We're not perfect. We still have problems. But we're trying. That's why I'm here. To learn from you and to show you that humans want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. Ambassador Ryloth made a decision. I will speak to the council. This incident has shown me that we do not understand Deathworld species at all. Perhaps that is a gap in our education that needs addressing. He looked at Emma with new respect. You may keep your tools, Miss Richards. I believe I am beginning to understand their true purpose. Professor Velnara organized a special symposium titled Deathworld Perspectives on Peace. Students from across the Concordat attended, curious about the controversial human. Emma stood at the podium alongside her classmates. Thorn spoke first about his species' peaceful crystalline civilization, built on harmony and shared light. Vri described the hive's perfect cooperation through chemical communication. Then Emma began. My ancestors lived in caves, fearing the dark. We competed with saber-toothed cats for food. We survived ice ages that should have killed us. Every generation faced starvation, disease, predators, and natural disasters. The audience listened intently. We developed weapons not because we're evil but because we had to survive. And yes, we turned those weapons on each other. For thousands of years, we fought wars over resources, territory, and beliefs. Emma's voice grew stronger. But here's what makes humans special, we learned. We looked at the ruins of our cities, the graves of millions, and said, never again. We created the United Nations, international law, and peace treaties. We chose cooperation over competition. Thorn raised a crystalline appendage. But you still have weapons. We do, Emma admitted. Because we remember what happens when peaceful people can't defend themselves. But we also have teachers, doctors, artists, and scientists. For every weapon we've created, we've built 1,000 tools of peace. Vri spoke up. I've been researching human culture. You have something called the Geneva Conventions, rules for warfare designed to minimize suffering. You created ethics for violence itself. Exactly, Emma said. We're not proud of our violent history, but it taught us the value of peace. When you've known true horror, you'll do anything to prevent it. Professor Velnara approached the podium. I believe I understand now. Humans aren't dangerous despite their capacity for violence, they're trustworthy because of it. They know the cost and choose differently. Ambassador Ryloth stood from the audience. The Concordat Council has deliberated. We're expanding the exchange program. We want to learn from humanity's journey, how you transformed survival instincts into protective instincts. Weeks later, Emma taught her first self-defense class. Alien students learned basic awareness and de-escalation techniques. The strongest person in any conflict, Emma told her class, is the one who chooses not to fight. Strength without restraint is just violence. But restraint backed by strength? That's true power. Thorn practiced a basic blocking technique. On my world we never needed this. We were fortunate. But now I understand, peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the choice to resolve it differently. Emma smiled. Now you're thinking like a human. As the class ended, Emma looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its journey, a death world that birthed a species capable of both tremendous destruction and profound compassion. Perhaps that was humanity's greatest weapon, the wisdom to know when not to use the others. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous species could also be the most dedicated guardians of peace.